So I just got back from this job interview. Still have that PTSD. So you put on this suit, you drive in this heat, you get to the building, right, where you're supposed to go. You make sure you've done everything right. You do your preparation before the interview. You stay late at night, and then you go to the interview. And do you know what they did? This is what they did. Two of the people that interviewed me did a high five at the end of my interview. They did a high five. So it was basically a humiliation ritual. And they did a high five not with me, but with among themselves, for asking me these irrelevant textbook questions. I did not put any of those statements on my resume, but they asked me how to automate the entire Tableau server using Python. And that's not something I was prepared for. So on my way back, I looked at my portfolio and I saw a slight dip. And I saw my bank account, and it's not that bad. But then I really thought about how I got to that point, how I made my first 100K, and what it took for me to get over there, my first 100K. And then I thought about the next generation. Hopefully you guys. I hope the next generation is watching this. And I am completely clueless. How are you guys going to make your first 100K? Everything that I have done for the past 10 years, got myself 8+ years of experience, it's irrelevant now. There is no more tech boom. When I first got into data analytics, I had to jump through so many hoops to get my first job. All these courses that I took, all the certifications that I got, all the people, all the bootlicking, ass kissing to make my first 100K, to get myself into the corporate America. And I did that without an American college degree. So my next book, $1 Million Route, which I'm not very far from. I wonder, how are you guys going to make it there? Because you're going to need $1 million just to have a decent life with this inflation and everything. But the humiliation that I faced, having the experience, having the work ethic, having the desire to work, having the knowledge and the people skill. How is anybody going to be in my position? Who is going to fill that job? So I'm going to jump into my computer. I'm having a cup of coffee. I'm going to make myself something to eat. And I'm going to jump into my computer. I'm going to show you all how I made my first 100K. Alright, I'm back on my computer. And I need to see something. I'm a visual learner, And I'm thinking most of you might as well be visual learners. So instead of me downstairs looking at the camera, pissed off, hangry, I had something to eat and I came upstairs on my computer and I need to pull my Instagram. And the topic was how I made my first 100K. And that is one of the biggest milestones in a man's life. So where do I begin? So this is me in high school, actually right out of high school. I was working at CVS Pharmacy. I had a pretty good life. I had friends. This photo was actually taken by a DSLR camera, digital camera, not to be mistaken with DSLR. And my friend over here, he used to work at Blockbusters. He was the manager of Blockbusters. And that's me. And that's my friend. We used to work at CVS Pharmacy together. And we never thought would ever make 100K. It was unimaginable. I was at your age. I was 17, 18, 19. And I started with a community college. This is Northern Virginia Community College. And the money that I had saved, I went to LA, started performing. I thought my music would bring me the first 100K, and I had been disappointed through all my life. My music did not make me any money. It made me some money, but it wasn't enough. The opportunity, the time investment wasn't enough. And I did a semester at LA Film School. My father had co-signed for it. And I just burned through all my savings. And I did not want to put my parents through that kind of a liability, so I dropped out. I'm gonna make a separate video on the American dream associated with LA. Oh, but first of all, let me plug in the sponsor of this show, which is myself. Everyone, I got a Beretta 92FS with me. What is a Beretta 92FS? Let's take a look at it. Got 6 rounds. All this shit. That's a Beretta 92FS. Thank you. Welcome back. So if you are a YouTube algorithm right now, your mind must be just exploding, trying to find the right audience, the right niche for this guy. And let me tell you, there is no one straight way. The most important thing that you can learn in your life is how to act, how to juggle multiple hats. And it's about continuously learning new things. And it's letting go the fear of rejection. You try a new thing, it doesn't work out, let it go. Cut your losses and move on. Now the first 100K, right? So this is what happened after failing from California, Los Angeles. I moved back to Virginia, and then I moved back to Nepal for college. And these are the pictures during my college days. And I went through an earthquake. That is actually how so that's in Tamil, the tourist area, right when 30 minutes after the massive 7.8 impact. I went there like a stupid foreigner with my camera, and I took this picture, and everybody was looking at me, and I was like, no, I'm not being solipsistic. I just want to have this as a memory. And after I came back from Nepal, this is what I had to do to find a job in broadcast journalism. Forget about it. So I had to find a consultancy that would train me how to fake 5 years of experience, put it on my resume, perfect that, and try to land my first job. And I'm gonna try to find a snapshot of the first 100K that I made. And there's this book called Think and Grow Rich, and it says you gotta acquire a skill, a specialized skill. That's how you make your first money. First of all, you gotta make good money, get a tech job. Of course, this won't apply to you because the time has moved on, but there's going to be opportunity in the next big thing. So you always have to have your mind open, like this YouTube video. I suck at making these YouTube video. I don't want to come in front of a camera and being a professional, having all these years selling your time for money. I'm standing in front of this camera and talking to this camera. At least I have a visual to broadcast. Some people talk right in front of the camera without anything, any reference material. Some memorize the script. And I'm trying to see, being the authentic myself, trying to provide some value for the next generation on how to never give up, wear multiple hats, do not get confined to one identity. You are not your identity. Your identity, your status changes throughout your life. You're not the same person that you were 10 years ago. You're not going to be the same person 10 years from now. Look at this guy. You know, this guy. This is me. This was my condition living in California. It was this house provided by the consultancy, and we all had to, there were 15 of us cramped into this one house, and everything was monitored like Palantir. They monitor every move, your email, your phone calls. There were security cameras all over the house. You were not allowed to apply for any jobs, and these people would train you and place you in the IT, the world of IT. And I had to live with a bunch of women, slobs. And I did have a good time, to be honest. I had some money saved, and I pursued my hobbies. And this was my first ever job that I got. It was a remote business analyst job. I was laid off in a month. The proxy had done the interview for me. Do you know what the other kids did? They did what they called dub smash. They would link their Google Voice into somebody else's phone. They would appear in front of the camera, and they would make some sort of cross connection, and the person would move their mouth, and the other person would be, the expert would be doing their interview while they were moving their mouth, lip syncing to whatever the information the other person is feeding. And I didn't have to do that. The person took the phone call for me, and I get a phone call from my consultancy. Hey, congratulations, you got a job. You've been hired. And I'm like, okay, now it's the time. Now it's time to perform everything that I learned in the consultancy. Now it's the time to perform. So I was in San Francisco and I got the remote job and I moved back to Virginia where I'm staying right now. I guess I'm never going to leave this house. It's my parents' house. Thank God I am not homeless. I'm not paying rent in some shitty neighborhood. I'm having a pretty good time living with my parents. I'm very fortunate to have my parents married and loving parents that they love you, they love each other, kind, generous. So that was my first job. That job did not get me 100K. So I do believe there's this limiting belief inside yourself that I could never get past 10K. When I was working as an Uber driver, every time I made that 10K, something would go bad. Something would, my car would break down, or I would get, my Amazon account would get hacked. I would recover the money eventually, but there were these hurdles. There's some kind of a cosmic barrier that would not let me go past 10K. But I tried and tried, and my second job after getting certified in Tableau, this was in Massachusetts, and this is the job I interviewed for by myself, and I went there and I put in the time and the effort. This job did not make me 100K either. I would get eventually swing up to the 10K range and I would go back down again. And this was during the COVID. And I've had some pretty good times. This was in New York. A friend of mine had a penthouse up there. And I was looking up to him. And I thought I was going to do the same thing. I thought I was going to have a penthouse in New York. But thank God I was not that taken away, by my FOMO, fear of missing out. I was making good money, but then I realized I should invest this money, or lost a lot of money buying all-time highs, but that's the lesson that you learn. Keep your expenses very low and invest your money. Now that I was well past 100K at that time. I made my first 100K working for Wells Fargo and Citi unethically. So when there was opportunity, when there was more demand than supply, the time when there were more jobs open for Tableau developers, data analysts, than Tableau developer, data analysts. During the pandemic, that's when I worked 2 remote jobs. That is what I did. Played video games, stayed home, worked out, did my job, 2 of them. That's how I made my first 100K. But to get there, I had to go through a whole lot of crap. I had this bicycle in California. I used to ride this bicycle an hour and 15 minutes from the home we were staying to the classroom. I don't think I can ever go back to. Youth is underrated. A lot of people say that I look younger now at 37, but that's just the front. It's because I have time to recover, to rest, and not go to a soul-sucking job. I got myself some hair. Why not? Don't be confined to that identity. As there's no way I'm working a slave labor job with this hair. I had to hop from one state to the other. No friends. You can't make long-term relationship. No girlfriend. Nothing. You just hop from one state to the other. Why? To gain experience. The experience was more valuable than money. This was me. I had turned 21 at that day. Drunk and passed out at a hotel. I gave up drinking at the age of 28. Started drinking when I turned 18 because all my friends over at the slave labor job at CVS Pharmacy, well, that job was not that bad, but there's no more hiring at CVS either. All those stores are shutting down. Had a dream of being a rock star at that age. I'm going to go to America. I'm going to be a rock star. British Gorkha Academy. These guys were Gorkhas. I was from a different caste. These guys would be accepted in the Gorkha army. I would not. I'm not from the same caste. But I had to earn my way, man. Getting in fights with these guys. You know how they say, if someone says he's a Gorkha, either he's lying or he is a Gorkha. Somebody is not afraid to die. He is lying or he is a Gorkha. These kids, they had some sort of a wire connection missing. 404 error, connection not found, no fear. They just did not have that emotion called fear. I got my first punch in my face. Then I realized, no, man, that's not how you work with these guys. You don't. You persuade them. You put on a mask. You put on a hat. And you manipulate people. That's what you got to do. And that's my parents. That's me at age 16. When kids my age would have a normal life, I would work 35 hours a week because you can't work full time because they gotta pay you, or you're a minor. And even after I turned 18, I wasn't allowed to work full time because they didn't want to pay for my insurance and all that crap. So you're going to see a lot of content on my Instagram. Each of them have their own unique story, but you gotta understand that I come from an art background. I wanted to go to Los Angeles to be a concept artist. That is what I was into. This city. I imagine all the friends that are drowned in debt right now. You only see the success stories. Do you know what happens to everyone that they move into this state as soon as they turn to the legal age? Things, there is two worlds. There's freedom and there's prison. If you ever get to the other world, heaven and hell, it's both on earth. So while I'm giving you this rant on how to make your first 100K, just realize you do something illegal and you get thrown to the prison, you're done. I have experience with, of course, you read my book. I talk about the illegal issues that I face all the time. There's some more that I'm going to slowly let out. But yeah, your first 100K. This video is getting long, so I'm gonna end this right here. Subscribe, like, whatever, if you want to hear more from me.